so interesting how the things that we talk about in Sunday school are often what I plan to talk about today, this morning. So that was kind of our intro, and thank you, Linda, for teaching our Sunday school lesson. Well, as I was driving over here today, I was just enjoying the green of the wheat fields and the blue of the sky. And as I thought about it, that's why I put this on here. The green didn't come out quite as green as it did when I was looking at the photo, but it's just such a beautiful time. And I think our sun is trying to come out this Easter morning and just give us joy in our heart and open us up. I noticed the trees were starting to bloom as I was driving around the lake and sprouting new growth. I think spring is trying its best to cheer us up. I don't know what you do in Florida when you don't have spring. Is it just always spring? And I think the change of the season sometimes helps us to remember what it's like in dark times. And today we're celebrating the resurrection of our Jesus Christ. So my hope today is to bring more light. Bring light into your lives. Bring light for you to take home with you as we go our own ways. Because it's a dark time. You know, we have so much going on in our world. And we're aware of this, and we should be aware of this. We know the pain that people are feeling in Ukraine with all that is going on and leaving their homes. And that touches us all in our hearts too, because we are all connected. We know personally the sadness in our hearts today with the death of Judy Markle and Greta Snell, both on the same evening after we had Maundy Thursday at the Methodist Church. I'm sorry, I didn't know some of you didn't know. So it's a heavy time within our community. And we know the pain that our Lord suffered through the crucifixion and getting to this day of resurrection. And we're all aware of our uncertain feelings with all we've been dealing with, COVID and what's next. And it's just an uncertain time. So it's so important this Easter to rely on the springtime, to know that this winter time is past. And there's beauty all around us to lift us and guide us during this time. So now I want you to close your eyes and pause. Breathe out that uncertainty. And breathe in the love of those around you. Breathe out the sadness and confusion. And feel the joy of being together in this sacred space. Let go of the darkness and experience the peace, the passive understanding that God promises. And now we open our eyes and say, welcome spring, a time of renewal, rejoicing, reflecting, rebirth, and resurrection. A time where truthfully God promises all shall be well and good. And as we sit there, let your shoulders relax a little. Move your neck and try to get rid of that stiffness. And just open up to receive the blessings of this day with our feet firmly grounded on our floor, feeling as we are connecting with the earth as it warms this season. And now, as you are a bit relaxed, I hope, please listen to Ladder to the Light by Stephen Charleston, an Indigenous elder Episcopal priest from Oklahoma. It's written on the back of your bulletin if you want to follow along with me as I read. All things come and go. Be at peace this blessed day. Whether it brings sunlight or storms, serenity or struggle, be at peace in passing through it. Doing what needs to be done, living as fully as you can, as authentically as you can, at peace in your soul. Know that all things come and go on the way to where you are called to be. They pass around you, they pass over and under you, but they do not define you or contain you. For your life is not an inventory of pains or pleasures, but a sonnet of the Spirit, a mystery fashioned from and for eternity, a strength so powerful that it can afford to be vulnerable to love. Be at peace on this blessed day. So I want to look around and ask you, what does Easter mean to you? What are your memories of Easter? Could you share some of those? Well, I can start. I remember dressing up to go to church on Easter, getting a new dress, looking for Easter eggs, those childhood memories of Easter as we were so carefree during that time.
I remember sunrise services, and in Meade, we would go out to the drive-in in our pajamas and have a sunrise service like at sunrise,
Yeah.
and then go home and have breakfast and get ready to go to church. But the whole community would be there for a sort of an inter-sunrise service. And then living in Massachusetts, we would climb Mount Blue, the local hill, and have a sunrise service there. But I remember those as being, because it was such a break in the tradition, of the normal Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I remember times our church was full, but one of the things that is still happening is I can smell our lunch coming up like we used to always do. So thank you for that ham. I think it's the ham, maybe, I don't know what, or the potatoes that are cooking, or beans, but we breathe that in as we remember those joyous times. And we also remember the people that are not with us, but we feel their spirits here today. We found in the back that we were looking at the Bibles that were in memory of Cecil and Mary and Ed Sr., those Bibles that are still around. By the way, if anybody wants one of those, they'd love to have a new home, especially the one from Edward Valentino, is that right, Larry? E.V. Siebert. These old Bibles and these wonderful memories of times with Easter's past. And it carries many memories associated with spring for me. The greening of the grass and the opening of things. It's named after a pagan god, a goddess of spring, an English goddess whose name was Eostre or Eostra. That's what they think Easter's name came from. But it truly means that restoration and that ability to open our eyes in a new way to the world around us, to work on our regeneration, our rebirth, our reawakening as nature awakens from the winter time. And spring is a testimony that no matter how hard winter gets, life has always come back and always will. As Camus wrote, in the midst of a seemingly endless winter, I discovered within myself an invincible spring. May it be so for all who need encouragement in these hard times. I read some beautiful examples of lessons of our earth teaching us about renewal and rebirth. They mentioned the way that you see the ice on the trees and how they have to bend their branches way down. And then as the ice melts, they're able to spring back into the shape they had before. And it related that to the freeze of a broken heart, how it thaws and then it comes back to life and hope. And high in the mountains, they talked about these little caves that collect the water when the snow melts, and it kind of comes drip by drip, like the heartbeat of the mountain. And we collect memories that way also, to restore our soul when times are rough. And the last thing they mentioned, I was thinking of you guys having been down in Florida, they talk about these small, brilliant fish that take in pebbles, and it looks like they're eating the sand, but what they're really doing is just taking the nourishment off and then spitting out the sand. So that example was to teach us that when we suffer, we can take in what nourishes us, and then we need to let go of the rest. And I asked, what does spring teach us about how to live Easter? I believe as we turn from the winter season to spring, we are shown how to look in a new way at things. Those aches and pains that seem to occupy our minds in the darkness of winter and caused us to worry about what they might mean, we are to exchange for a sunnier, brighter day ahead. We are to change how we look at our bodies, look for what is working in our bodies instead of concentrating on what's not working as well as it used to. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't remember something, but we're encouraged with spring to think about what we do remember and not to worry about what has been forgotten. We must pause and look at the trees around us, the trees that looked dead in winter and how they come alive in the spring. Think of the wheat seeds. In the earth they lay dormant all winter, and now with the warmth of the sun and the little moisture, they sprout and they create these beautiful fields of luxurious green. So we are to let the beauty of the earth speak to our hearts. And that's why I chose the familiar hymn, the 23rd Psalm, to read today. I looked at, you can go to a source called Bible Gateway, and there are hundreds of translations. I picked one today from the Contemporary Bible, because so often the 23rd Psalm, as we were younger, we learned it in the
King James.
Yeah, the King James, thank you. The King James Version. But I wanted to share with you today in the Contemporary. So listen to these words of comfort. You, Lord, are my shepherd. I will never be in need. You let me rest in fields of green. You lead me to streams of peaceful water, and you refresh my life like spring. You are true to your name, and you lead me along the right paths. I may walk through valleys as dark as death, but I won't be afraid. You are with me, and your shepherd's rod makes me feel safe. You treat me to a feast while my enemies watch. You honor me as your guest, and you fill my cup till it overflows. Your kindness and love will always be with me each day of my life, and I will live with you forever in your house, dear Lord. So to me, that exemplifies resurrection. It's what Jesus' death and resurrection assures us. We are never alone. God is with us, guiding us, refreshing us, leading us. Yes, there have been, and there are, and there will be more hard winters and valleys as dark as death. But God promises renewal and will not let the difficulties overwhelm us. God promises us that love and kindness will always be with us, and we will live in the house of the Lord forever. That's the meaning of resurrection. Jesus' resurrection, rebirth, and thus a time for all of us to reawaken. So we're going to sing the song from the loose leaf this time, please. Number 77, God's Eye is on the Storm. Do you all have a book? Please stand as you're able. seated. And thanks again to everyone that redid our books. So in Sunday school, we talked about the Easter story from John, and I chose the Easter story from the Gospel of Matthew today. This is the 28th chapter, verses 1 through 10. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going into the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid, yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said to them. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. And then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." As we mentioned in Sunday school, the description of the last days, the crucifixion and Jesus rising is in all four of the Gospels. A little bit different things are noted in each one of them. So we can gain from, I'm glad we were studying John, and we can gain now from what it says in Matthew. And I chose Matthew for a couple of reasons. I did note the fact that was also noted in Sunday school about it was the women first at the tomb and the prominence that the women disciples witnessed at the time of Jesus' crucifixion and death. And again, that is the same in all four. It mentioned the disciples, many of them just went home. They were discouraged. They thought Jesus was going to come as king and take away all their troubles. And life would go on, and the Romans would be defeated, and they would be in charge. That wasn't how it happened. And the women, Mary Magdalene, and it says the other Mary, and like we looked in other places, there were a group of women. They went about being of service, gathering spices and incense to prepare Jesus' body for burial. This has an important and heavenly message for all of us. Not only the literal story where we can walk with Jesus during this time and walk with the disciples during this time, but the inner story as well. As we mentioned in Sunday school, the women represent affections and love, our feelings. And the men represent more our thinking and rational side. And we have both within us. We have the love and we have the rational side. And one is not better or more important than the other. But the important message here is that we let love lead. If we let our thinking side lead sometimes, we probably convince ourselves that there really wasn't a resurrection. It doesn't make logical sense, and it isn't logical. We can talk ourselves out of a lot of things when we only approach it with our thinking side. So the important thing that it's telling us in this story is to let love lead. Let our feelings lead us sometimes. And this is why Jesus came to them first after his death, because they were at a place, and our feeling side of us leads us to a place to accept and to see and to recognize God. The women were in a state of love for Jesus. They weren't expecting a king, they were expecting a savior. They felt this love and connection. And they believed what he said in their hearts. So when he came to them in his bodily state, after his resurrection, they could see him. They took the message back to the disciples, and as we know in the story, as it's recorded in Mark also, the disciples did not believe Mary Magdalene. Jesus had to also appear to the 11 in a way that they could see him. And he rebuked them for a lack of understanding and their stubborn refusal to not believe the women that had seen him after he had risen. Our reasoning and rational side, again, is very important. It's kind of how we chew on it and make it a part of our own. The feelings can be more fleeting, but the thinking side is where we really bring it into us and make it our own. So this is just something to think about and to ponder in your hearts, like Mary pondered when the angel told her she was going to be the mother of Jesus. She pondered it in her heart. And the second reason that I chose this passage today is that Jesus tells the women and the other 11 disciples how to meet him after he had risen. Go to Galilee. There you will see me. So we need to ask, what did Jesus mean, go to Galilee? Why did he tell the disciples to go to Galilee? Well, Galilee was where most of them were living and had spent a lot of their time together. So Galilee really represents our exterior life, our outward life, our everyday life. He didn't say, go to the temple, go to Jerusalem. He said, go to Galilee. And he's telling us, too, that that's where he will meet us, in our normal life. Yes, he's very much here, and we can feel our Lord and God present in this place. But what he's asking us to please feel that presence in our everyday life, where we put that love and feeling and rational thought into practice in helping one another. That is going to Galilee. Jesus is saying, I will meet you right there in your everyday life, on the farm, driving a car, looking out over the green fields and feeling the Lord's presence. So today I'm sharing that small gift of a rock with you. Spring tells us, and Christ's resurrection reminds us, and Jesus is telling us, that when COVID confusion and uncertainty seems to be going on forever, and we don't see any relief, when the war in Ukraine shrinks our sense of well-being and tears at our hearts, when worry or sorrow overcomes us with the death of friends and family, we are to pay attention to the nearest thing, the everyday things, these simple rocks. We're to try to pay attention to that smiling face on a pansy that we see, to the laughter of a child in the grocery store, to the glorious green fields of ripening wheat and the impossible blue Kansas skies. So look at your rock as you have it there, and think about the mountain that it came from. Feel it in your hand and feel the strength. Another favorite hymn I thought about using today was, On Christ, the solid rock I stand. Let this solid rock encourage you. And always remember this group of friends gathered here at this church, that we care about one another and we love one another, and we're here for one another in times of trouble. I don't have a colored Easter egg to give everyone, but I want to share these rocks that I've collected over many, many years. There's one I didn't put out for anybody to take. I don't know if you can see this from a distance. This is the first rock I ever remember picking up as a child. And I remember I was with my father, and there had been a flood, and we had a lot of land along the river. And when it flooded, it was always full of sticks and limbs. And Dad and I were out there picking up sticks, and I found this one that reminded me of a heart. But it also, the more I looked at it, I wondered if it might have been a Native American tool, because it's so well shaped. We'll never know the history, but it brings back wonderful memories, and it helps me. And truthfully, I don't know how I managed to hang on to it over all these years. It just kind of shows up sometimes. So when we were cleaning out Mom's house, and when she went into the nursing home and we were renting it out, I came across this again, and it's a precious thing to have that with me. So I wondered if any of you are willing to mention why you picked the rock you picked, and just why it attracted you, or what you think it might mean.
Well, I can share that. I picked mine because it was different than a lot of them that I already have, so it will help me keep memories of this time.
What's it look like?
It's, it's got a lot of different colors in it, and ridges and smooth spots, and so it's just.
It's a rough rock.
It is, with smooth areas and sharp areas.
This reminds me that it might possibly have a fossil in it, or partial to rocks myself. I need to put it on the collection desk and let the cat knock it off. But I don't know, that's a fossil.
I picked my rock, mainly because it reminds me of some of the streams that I walk by. It also reminds me of the mountains that I hiked, and it just brings back a lot of memories.
I like the smoothness of the rock. It was one that may have blocked the tomb where Jesus lay. It also reminds me of the smooth rock that David picked up, just like Goliath. And it just made me think of the greatness of God and His power and love for us.
It reminds me of the mountains I've climbed.
The what?
The mountains I've climbed.
Mountains you climb. Climbed up and down.
What goes up must come down.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, we read that all things come and go, but rocks last a long, long time. If only we could know the stories they could tell us about where they have been and their journeys. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoy your rock. So let us join in prayer this day.